Announcing the commencement of the first purge.
I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich. You get out there, you use your weapons, and you rip Washington apart. You hunt down the billionaires, the bank bosses, the CEOs, the scumbags, and the liars, the governors, the lobbyists, the senators, because they're all the same, and you hang them.
Just remember all the good the purge does.
Good morning, everyone. It's August 1st, 2018. I'm Eric. I'm here at beforeitsnews.com, and I realize that this is old news, but we need to look at this again. And the reason why I'm looking at this again is because I recently saw a couple of videos, one from BuzzFeed, the other channel escapes me at the moment, but where the two guys that did the video kind of try to whitewash the existence of this secret society. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it is very, very lengthy, but I will jump around and get into your overall freedom and your overall choice or choices. Illuminati Defector details pervasive conspiracy. Of course, we already know about that part. We already know that, you know, this is a group that was created back in the 1700s, a little bit before our own revolution against Britain. So Fiona Barnett's revelations in the Illuminati is not exclusively Jewish. Recalled this interview with another Illuminati insider, and I don't know how to pronounce that, so Sveli, something like that. And this comes from Henry Macau, PhD, and it's from 2002. And of course, all this stuff applies more today, even more today than it did back in 2002. We recall that, you know, in 2002, we saw a lot of draconian legislation passed. And listen, the Mexicans are playing their fucking music real loud. If only murder was a moral thing to do. If only. But I digress. So, let's get into this. They say if you detect the devil's hand in current events, you may be closer to the truth than you think. Everyone wants to believe or blame everything on the devil and God, and it's our own doing. Remember, we were born with free will. We freely chose to do the things we do, and as a society as well, although many of us do disagree on the way things are done. We still have that option to raise hell and push back, and most of us don't. A woman who was raised by or in the Illuminati cult describes a powerful secret organization comprising 1% of the U.S. population that is infiltrated or has infiltrated all social institutions and is covertly preparing a military takeover. Her revelations cast the war on terror and homeland security in a new light. Sveli is the pseudonym of the woman, aged 45, who was a mind programmer for the occult until 1996. She was the 6th head trainer in the San Diego branch and had 30 trainers reporting to her. She has risked her life to warn humanity of the Illuminati's covert power and agenda. I don't know about risked her life. I mean, certainly if they wanted her dead, they'd know who she is. I mean, it wouldn't be that hard to figure out, right? So she describes a sadistic cult led by the richest and most powerful people in the world. It is largely homosexual and practices pedophilia, animal sacrifice, and ritual murder. It works hand in glove with the CIA and Freemasonry. It is Aryan supremacist, or it is Aryan supremacist. German is spoken at the top, but welcomes Jewish apostates. It controls the world traffic in drugs, guns, pornography, and prostitution. It may be the hand behind political assassinations and terrorism, including September 11th. Okay, so people like Benjamin Netanyahu, and I have to believe that at the highest levels, what about Zionism? There seems to be two colliding forces there, doesn't it? I mean, but perhaps Zionism is all about pushing that Third World War that Albert Pike spoke so fondly of. She goes on to say that it has infiltrated the government on a local, state, and national level, education and financial institutions, religion, and the media. Based in Europe, it plans a world order that will make its earlier attempts, Nazism and communism, look like picnics. One other detail, these people are not happy. Again, there's conflicting information, because we know that that communism is a Jewish ideology, and I'm pretty sure Nazism is too. Pretty sure. I mean, they seem to be behind a lot of the most draconian ideologies out there. Pretty sure. Pretty sure I recall Hitler being at least half Jewish. I'm pretty sure. But nonetheless, how does this tie into Zionism? That's what I would like to know. Her courageous testimony explains why our children are no longer taught civic values, why they are being habituated to homosexuality and violence, and why our culture is descending into nihilism and sexual depravity. And, of course, this does apply more now than in 2002. I mean, yes, there was pornography. Yes, there were many, many whores. And, but it's gotten a popular foothold. And once something becomes popular among, a large portion of the population, it becomes a sort of normality. And we don't want that, do we? It raises the possibility that George W. Bush and his administration are Illuminists, and much of the world elite is engaged in a mind-boggling criminal conspiracy. And of course, we already know that the world's elite are engaged in a lot of bad shit. Among them are human trafficking, child sex slavery. I mean, the list really does go on forever. I couldn't sit here all day and name everything they've done. In March 2000, Savelli began writing a monthly column for survivors of Illuminati ritual abuse at suit101.com. In December 2000, H. J. Springer, the editor of CenterXNews.com, contacted Sally and conducted an extensive 18-part interview with her by email, which is reproduced online and is copyrighted. In quotes, "I am convinced she is the real McCoy," Springer wrote to me. "I have personally relayed numerous email messages to her from other members, ritual abused, brainwashed, raped, sexually abused people, and you name it, some of them confirming to me her story. So I have absolutely no doubt that Svelli has been part of the Illuminati since childhood. I also trust Svelli's testimony because it confirms my intuition and intensive research." Well, here's the thing about intuition. Sometimes it's right. A lot of the times it's right. But it's not always right. Intensive research. If you've done any research into any of this stuff, you'll know that people kind of cite each other, and they're almost always the same sources. So, okay, everything fits from the dead hand that seems to suppress humanity to why Clinton gave secret technology to the Chinese to persistent reports of concentration camps in the U.S. It explains why people I know behave in a conspiratorial way. I thank Svelli for giving me a frightening but incredible key to understanding the world. Let's go down here. Pervasive presence. This comes from the woman, in quotes. "The Illuminati are present in every major metropolitan center in the United States. The Illuminati believe in controlling an area through its banks and financial institutions. Guess how many sit on banking boards? You'd be surprised. Local government? Guess how many get elected to local city council? Law? Children are encouraged to go to law school and medical school. Media, others are encouraged to go to journalism school, and members help fund local papers. Beliefs. She says the Illuminati is a group that practices a form of faith known as enlightenment. It is Luciferian, and they teach their followers that their roots go back to the ancient mystery religions of Babylon, Egypt, and Celtic Druidism. They have taken what they consider the best of each, the foundational practices, and joined them together into a strongly occult they should have put occultic, strongly occultic discipline. Many groups at the local level worship ancient deities such as Ea, Baal, I'm not really sure how to pronounce that one, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip it. Osiris, Isis, and Seti. I do know that these people teach and practice evil. This is concerning Adam Weishaupt. She says Weishaupt did not create the Illuminati. They chose him as a figurehead and told him what to write about. The financiers, dating back to the bankers during the times of the Templar Knights, who financed the early kings in Europe, created the Illuminati. Weishaupt was their gopher who did their bidding. Military takeover. Briefly, each region of the United States has a nerve center. or has nerve centers or power bases for regional activity. The United States has been divided up into 7 major geographical regions. Of course, she's wrong about those that number. I think it's either 10 or 11. Each region has localities within it that contain military compounds and bases that are hidden in remote, isolated areas or on large private estates. These bases are used intermittently to teach and train generational Illuminati in military techniques, hand-to-hand combat, crowd control, use of arms, and all specs of military warfare. Because the Illuminists believe that our government, as we know it, as well as the governments of most nations around the world, are destined to collapse. These will be planned collapses, and they will occur in the following ways. The first is a planned financial collapse. And this is one of the reasons why I've maintained for many years now that the financial end of things is what's going to cause things to disintegrate into mayhem. So, it could be. But then again, they cannot control things like volcanic eruptions. At least, you know, not as far as we actually know. We know they can, you know, create rain and thunderstorms and steer hurricanes, but I think volcanoes are something they don't fully understand yet. So, that's not to say you couldn't hook a mechanical oscillator up to a steel beam near there and maybe create an eruption that way. And if you don't know about mechanical oscillators, just check out some of Nikola Tesla's work on these, and you'll find plenty of information as to their destructive power. Okay. The Illuminati has planned first for a financial collapse that will make the Great Depression look like a picnic. This will occur through the maneuvering of the great banks and financial institutions of the world through stock manipulation and interest rate changes. Remember, this was written back in 2002, and of course we have seen a lot of that activity taking place between now and then. Most people will be indebted to the federal government through bank and credit card debt, and so on. The governments will recall all debts immediately, but most people will be unable to pay and will be bankrupted. This will cause generalized financial panic, which will occur simultaneously worldwide, as the Illuminists firmly believe in controlling people through finances. Okay, let me see, find the place where she talks about the Rothschilds here. Oh no, I'm gonna do the things that she said are gonna. The plant collapses. Okay, my bad. Okay. I don't know the exact time frame for all of this and wouldn't want to even guess. The good news is that if a person is debt-free, owes nothing to the government or credit debt, and can live self-sufficiently, they may do better than others. I would invest in gold, not stocks, if I had the income. Gold will once again be the world standard. The dollars will be pretty useless, and of course the Confederate money after the Civil War was useless. Next, there will be a military takeover, region by region, as the government declares a state of emergency and martial law. Now, our government does not need to declare a state of emergency because we have been in a state of emergency since at least 1933, and I would argue going back to that Civil War. And martial law. People will have panicked. There will be an anarchical state in most localities, and the government will justify its move as being necessary to control panicked citizens. The cult-trained military leaders and people under their direction will use arms as well as crowd control techniques to implement this new state of affairs. She goes on to say, military bases will be set up in each locality, and you can thank Walmart and other closed down warehouses and stores for that. In the next few years, they will go above ground and be revealed. Each locality will have regional bases and leaders to which they are accountable. She says that about 5 years ago, when she left the Illuminati, approximately 1% of the population was either part of the Illuminati or sympathetic to it, or a victim of mind control and therefore considered usable. While this may not sound like many, imagine 1% of the population highly trained in the use of armaments, crowd control, psychological and behavioral techniques, armed with weapons and linked to paramilitary groups. That's fine. I'm willing to fight against them. How about you? Leadership. The National Council of influential bankers with old money such as the Rockefellers, the Mellon family, the Carnegie family, the Rothschild family, and so on. The Supreme World Council is already set up as a prototype of the one that will rule when the NWO comes into being. I'm going to stop right there. We are already living in the NWO. Okay? Already. They don't. It's more like New Order from the New World Order. But I digress. So it meets on a regular basis to discuss finances, direction, policy, and so on, and to problem solve difficulties that come up. Once again, these leaders are heads in the financial worlds. Old banking money. The Rothschild family in England and in France have ruling seats. A descendant of the Habsburg dynasty has a generational seat. A descendant of ruling families of England and France have a generational seat. The Rockefeller family in the United States holds a seat. Royalty. Well, let me. Every Illuminati child is taught who their leaders are and are told to take an oath of allegiance to them and the new order to come. Royalty. The Illuminati leaders state that they are descended from royal bloodlines as well as unbroken cult heritage. There are two definitions of royalty used. Open royalty, that is currently seen now, and hidden royalty of royal lineage and extreme cult power. Sometimes the two are concurrent, such as the Prince of Wales. Okay, so the U.S. is considered lower and younger than the European branches, Germany, France, and the UK form a triumvirate. Oh, damn it. That's not one I'm going to get out of my mouth. They form a group that rules in the European cult. The USSR, or Russia, is considered important and has the strongest military groups. The USSR has been promised 4th position in the New World Order before the role the US would have, because the USSR has been more helpful and cooperative over the years with furthering the agenda. Descendants of the former ruling families there are also involved in the occult leadership, along with the newer ones. There is no Marxism in the occult. China will be ranked after the USSR, then the US, but a lot of the current US leadership will be in Europe when the change occurs, and many of them have homes there, and we know that, right? Russia will be the military base and powerhouse of the group, since their military commanders, Illuminists, are considered the best in the world and very, very disciplined. China, because of its roots in Oriental occultism and its large population, will also be considered a higher power than the US. But again, the real power will reside in Europe, according to what I was taught when part of the group. Okay, the United Nations. The United Nations was created early in this century. Of course, this is before 2000. In order to help overcome one of the biggest barriers to a one-world government. That barrier is the one of nationalism, or pride in one's country. Let me stop right there. Now, if Trump is actually as hated as he claims, then that would be the reason right there. Pride in one's country, and we all saw the campaign. We all know he spouted nationalist rhetoric. Whether he believes that or not is a completely different story, because just months later, we recall that he said he was both a globalist and a nationalist. So there's a sort of mixed message there. Then, of course, you heard his... sometimes I really, really, really hate cell phones. And I really, really hate texting. I really do. I recall a Boondocks episode with Samuel L. Jackson that talks all about it, and that is my point of view on texting. Okay, so the UN is a preparation, but not the real power in the world, and will be relatively unimportant when the NWO comes into being. The real councils will then step forward. But as a means of getting the general public to accept the idea of a global community and a one-world community, the UN is a stepping stone in their working towards the NWO. Apparently, a one-world government was not a popular concept when first introduced. It took years of country bashing in the media and the destruction of any sense of national pride by a not-so-subtle media campaign over the years. And of course, we have seen that media campaign take place, and it is presently taking place. Okay, now this is going to be my last subheading, because it's a half an hour so far. I will continue in a different video on the next subheading, and I will use the same title, only with the next subheading. She goes on to say, the conflict in the Middle East is only to the advantage of the Illuminists. They hate Israel. And hope one day to see it destroyed, and are biding their time. One of the olive branches offered by the UN when it takes over is that they will prevent war in the Middle East, and this will be greeted with joy by many. At the same time, the Illuminati covertly supplies guns and funds to both sides to keep the conflict fueled. And of course, this is a classic Rothschild technique, and has been used ever since they gained their wealth. She goes on to say, they used to funnel guns through the USSR to Palestine, for example, in the name of promoting friendliness between the USSR and this state or other Arab nations. Then the U.S. Illuminists would help funnel guns to Israel for the same reason. These people love the game of chess and see warfare between nations as creating an order out of chaos. The USSR is going to get stronger again. And of course, we've seen this happen since. It has too strong a military, both openly and covertly. All Illuminati military trainers have visited Russia to learn from them, to sit quietly and I can't pronounce that one either, on the side, to sit quietly to the side, and we have seen Russia do that as well. They will be stronger than us. Oh, wait. One more point here. My bad. Is the Illuminati a Jewish conspiracy? She says absolutely not. In fact, Hitler and his people, especially Himmler and Goebbels, were top Illuminists. The Illuminati are racist in the extreme, and as a child, I was forced to play concentration camp, both on my farm in Virginia and also in Europe in isolated camps in Germany. Apparently, the Jewish historically fought against the occult. She says, see Deuteronomy and the Old Testament for how God, through the Jewish people, tried to cleanse the land of the occult groups that were operating there, such as those who worshipped Baal and other Babylonian and Egyptian deities. From an email to Henry Macau. Yes, there are some very powerful Jewish people in this group. For instance, the Rothschild family literally runs the financial empire in Europe and indirectly in the States, and are a well-known Jewish family. I have also known people whose parents were Jewish diamond merchants in the group, and at every level. But the rise to power in the Illuminati, a Jewish person at night would be forced to renounce their faith and to give their first allegiance to Lucifer and the beliefs of the Illuminati. And in return for this betrayal, they believe that power, financial, and rewards come. So, I thought I would talk about this a little bit because the top companies of this world, they are this is the top media companies. Top media companies, the top 5, I believe it is, 5 or 6, own all of everything. These companies are run by, in many cases, Jews. Are those the Jews that she's referring to? And then, of course, you have the top banking families who are also Jews. Again, are these the Jews that betrayed their faith? My question is how does Zionism fit? Or is Zionism a counter, just as evil, by the way, just as evil, to the Illuminati? Are they a counterweight to the Illuminati? Could be. But it can just as easily be that they created this Jewish state for the purpose of seeing it destroyed in the end and creating order out of chaos. So, I do believe Albert Pike's letter did state that Zionism would be used to foment war, the last war, World War III, between the Jews, Christians, and Islam. So, and it certainly appears that that's kind of what's going on over there in Israel, right? I mean, they are the aggressors. They are trying to get back the lands of biblical times, and in doing so, they're stealing land from Syria. They've completely displaced the original population in Palestine, and or of Palestine, and now they're making threats towards Iran, and have been for some time. So maybe that's the deal. But either way, it's not good, right? Either way, maybe these people need to be dealt with on both sides, if there is two sides. You know, Zionism and the Illuminists, as she called them. Anyway, thought I would share this with y'all. Hope y'all have a great day. Till next time, kill the state before the state kills you, or these assholes.